Hi. Manalo, you here?
Hi, Gita.
Hello,
Ronel,
you here? How are you
unfortunately,
feeling?
yes, I'm good. How are you?
Okay, thanks. Amanda can't make it, so
Hi,
I'm going to
Gita.
take over. I'm going to take over. How are
Okay,
you?
thank you so much.
Good in
We're doing
you.
good. We're doing CV and cover letter today, right?
Yes, of course.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to go back, share screen.
Hi, thank you very much for joining us. I understand Gita is not able to come through, so you're taking over on her
No, I
behalf.
am Gita. I wasn't going to do it, but I am now.
Oh. Oh,
Shame
okay,
Amanda
great.
can't
Okay,
do
well,
it,
thank you.
but I am doing it.
Oh, okay, great. No, thank you so much, Gita, for coming through. We really do appreciate it. I'm Zwagele Ngubane. I work with Ronel in the Advancement and Alumni Relations Unit. Unfortunately, Ronel is not well today, so I'm stepping in just basically to get us started. So in that regard, I'd just like to welcome you, Gita, and thank you very much again for coming through. Gita, ladies and gentlemen, is from Recruiters Care, and as the DOT Advancements and Alumni Relations Unit, we've partnered with Recruiters Care to bring you this skills webinar series. And today, we're going to be covering CV writing as well as cover letter writing, which I think are very important skills, often taken for granted. People don't realize how important having that well-crafted CV is, as well as that cover letter, because that basically then convinces the potential employer to actually take a deeper look into your documentation and into your application. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Gita Winter from Recruiters Care, as she will be presenting on CV writing as well as cover letter writing. Thank you very much, Gita. It's over to you.
Okay, good. When I'm presenting in this view, I can't read the chat or sometimes see hands. So if somebody wouldn't mind helping me just manage that, because I don't mind people stopping me somewhere along the line. And from time to time, I'll ask if there's questions. But if you wouldn't mind just helping me with that, it'll be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Gita. So Alicia is also there to help us just monitor the hands and also make it possible for people to be able to come through with their question.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. Righty, thank you for that warm introduction. Like you said, I'm Gita Winter. So to give you some perspective, I've been recruiting for close on 18 years. So I read CVs and I write CVs and I train on CVs for that long time, for that period of time. And I can tell you that I've seen pretty much every version of every CV known to man. And what I'm telling you now is some really sometimes hard to hear recruiter truths that should hopefully help you craft a better CV that makes you more searchable. And when I say searchable, what I mean is there's a CV that helps you be found, because everybody has a CV. It's whether it's valuable or not. So here's the first exercise we're going to do together. And I want to go back to, even interactions like this, part of your personal brand and how you show up. So if I ask for some participation, I'd really pretty please like to help me out with it, because it will also help you to kind of hone your presentation skills and your public speaking skills. So here's an example. I ask you, we're in the car together. We go screaming up to a shop. I tell you, jump out and go and buy me the best shampoo for normal hair that there is. And you've only got 2 minutes to do it because we're already late for a meeting. Go. Which shampoo bottle are you choosing? Anybody? Then shout, put it in the comments, shout it out. Anything you like. Pick a shampoo bottle.
D.
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 Sure. Interesting.
Yeah,
D's a winner. Okay. Anybody like to tell me why D, other than the fact that it's in the front?
It looks bigger.
Okay, fair enough. Looks bigger. Sure. Cool. Okay. Actually, that's quite interesting that D looks bigger. Because fundamentally, these are the identical bottles of shampoo. And D maybe have been my choice, possibly J, because they're in the front and they probably would be easier to grab than one at the back where I worry about dropping C, D, and E when I'm trying to reach into the back for the other one. But in essence, there's nothing different about these. These are same. If this was the only shampoo in the world, you wouldn't even think about it. You'd go to the shop, you'd stick your hand in, you'd grab one and you leave. Nothing exciting about this. But if you had a choice, you would look for the one that worked for you best. And this is such a good representation of what a typical student or graduate CV looks like. You've got your basic personal details, sometimes a photo. You've got your qualification details, maybe a couple of skill sets that you've got, soft skills. But for the most part, everybody's CV looks like these same bottles of shampoo. Blah, 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 my name, blah, blah, my education, blah, blah. But here's the scary thing. I did a search the other day, about a week ago, and I used the job title, HR graduate. There was something like, I think it was 174,000 results on LinkedIn. I did the same search, but I used the jobs tab. There were only 11,000 jobs advertised. And then you think, well, that's actually quite a lot. But divide the 174 by 11,000, that number is scary. In theory, that's how many people are applying for those jobs. But even if the numbers weren't that scary, and the reality is there's probably close to between 1,500 and 3,000 applicants for every graduate position at an estimate on the low side. So if you look like all other 18 bottles of shampoo, or 7, however many it is, you don't stand out. You've probably got less chance of being seen because what am I going to actually look at? So when it comes down to it, you're giving me very little to decide against. I'm probably going to bypass you in the essence of in the interest of finding something that does interest me. So when the next time you're having a look at your CV and you're thinking about a recruiter on my side getting 1,500 of these, stop and think, if I received the CV from myself, really, is this a green bottle of shampoo? Or am I giving the recruiter something to really, really, really consider? Because that's what you want. You want to stand out. So here's the rules, right? And there's only 3. Your CV is not for you. It's for me, the reader. So if you've written your CV because it was easy for you and you like the template, well, that's great. But you're not the one looking for you to get a job. I am. Or me as the reader is doing that. So when you've written your CV, if it isn't with me in mind, you're probably not helping yourself at all. So that's first rule. Is it for me? The second is that it needs to stand out, full stop. And you see, I put a full stop there specifically because if I get the CV and it looks like 900 other bottles of shampoo, I'm probably not going to pay too much attention, but you might be one of 3,000. So best you stand out because you want me to pay attention to your CV. And it needs to be aligned to the role that you're applying for. So if you're using the exact same CV and you've applied for 10 completely different jobs, you're not standing out, you haven't made the CV readable for me, and it is definitely not aligned to any position that you've applied for, because if it were, you would have done something very different for that position. That's it. It's as simple as that. And now my job is done. Love you, Maddie. Bye. No, I'm only kidding. Okay. Anybody have any questions or queries on this one so far? Because that's really simple. So if you're not sure what I mean, maybe ask. We good?
Yes,
Anybody? Okay, cool. Right. Let's talk about how this works behind the scenes. Oh, I see there's a hand. Ivundla.
Raza, summarize.
Was that a mistake, hand? Okay. So I want
Yeah,
to give you, yeah?
Oh, sorry, Gita. I don't know if we need to just unmute Uvundla Svelishe so that they can ask their question, because I do see they have their hand raised.
Okay, no problem. So I just want to turn the lights on because the sun all of a sudden disappeared. Okay, I'm listening.
Svelishe, are we able to unmute Uvundla?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Oh, yes. My question is on, you see, recently, I did an application. It was an intern application. So I sort of merged my CV and a resume, and my resume. So it's sort of like a CV and a resume, where in the start, it's that small bio about you, and then I put in some personal information, and then all those other stuffs. But now the problem was, my CV was it's the cover page. It was about 4 pages. And I don't know if maybe my mistake was merging the two styles of the CV and the resume. So I don't know if I can show it to you, but it's a
Okay,
mess.
keep that question because I'm definitely going to cover it just now. And if I haven't
Okay.
answered your question in a bit, then you can just raise your hand and we'll look at it specifically. But I'm definitely going to cover that point. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
100%. I think there was another hand.
I think it was Aunguna
Mhm.
Ongani.
Okay, I see Mpele's hand is up. Mpele, can you come through with your question?
Uh, Thank you so much, Mr. Ngubane. Greetings to Miss Winter and to everyone. This is Ntando Mpele here. So my question is on the first part of Miss Winter's presentation. So there is that second point that says our CV needs to stand out. So what I would like to get light on is how can I make my CV stand out? The example of the bottles I saw, they all looked the same. How do you make just one bottle, and that is me, stand out, look different, but at the same time correct and concise and professional? So that's what I'm looking for, Miss Winter. Please assist.
Perfect.
Thanks.
That is an exceptionally good question. And I promise you, I'm going to cover it as we go through this. So if you don't feel like I've answered it specifically, then we can address it again. But I'm definitely going to show you how you can stand out. Okay. Good.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Perfect. Let's have a look at how behind the scenes works. So everybody has heard the word ATS, applicant tracking systems, and they make you think it's this big scary thing where your CV goes and this thing kicks you out and you never go, like a big black hole. That's not technically true. An ATS system is really just a fancy database. That's all it is. Your CV goes there, it gets stored there, and a recruiter or a hiring manager will go there to access your CV. And the way that we find your CV is by using certain keywords. So let's say I'm looking for a full stack developer, right? And I will go and I'll put front end, back end, Java, HTML, CSS. The applicant tracking system software will go into that database. It will scan all of those CVs and it will bring back the results of all the documents that have those keywords in them. Now, if your CV you want your CV to rank highest, because the honest truth is that we are not looking at 500 CVs in the result. They may come with 500 results, but I promise you now, no recruiter is looking at all 500. We might look at the top 50, maybe 100, there's abouts. So you need to have the right keywords in enough times to rank higher in that job search. That's kind of your goal. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, when a recruiter or a hiring manager opens your CV, as scary as it sounds, we probably scan that CV for under a minute before we decide that it is valuable to continue looking at it, or to shortlist it to take you to the next step, under a minute. And you think, yo, that's not a very long time to look at a CV. And you're right, except remember we do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds a day. So we get used to looking, to scanning data very quickly. But it's also a very long time. And if you guys are young enough to remember, and I only remember because I had to help my kids do it. But you remember going to English class, or Afrikaans, even worse. And they said, you need to do a minute speech in front of the class. A minute feels like 10 years when you have to stand up in the class and do a test. So a minute is kind of the number, right? And here's what we want to see, that the job, that your CV is well structured, that it aligns to what you applied for, that you've given us the data to make it valuable, and we can read that in 1 minute, right? So if you look like the shampoo, in less than 30 seconds, I'm going to know you're a bottle of shampoo. I'm going to shut you down. I'm going to open the next one until I find something that makes me want to sit up. That's the harsh reality of this. And if you're CV 1,500, it ain't happening. It genuinely ain't happening. So it's really important that you understand why you need to work on your CV to the degree that I'm telling you to do it. If you don't follow the application instructions, so I go on LinkedIn, please send your CV to this email address using this subject line and attach these 4 things. When I go into my mailbox, because we work on more than one job spec at a time, I'm going to filter my mailbox to that subject line. And if you didn't follow those instructions, I'm not going to see you. Because I get 900, 1,000 emails every single day. I don't have time to read one by one, in case you might have sent your CV. I'm filtering my mailbox, which is why I said to you, use this specific format. And when I do, and I get that, and I see that you haven't attached your transcript, and you haven't attached your CV in a certain, whatever it is that I asked you for, I'm going to think, well, yeah, you know what, this is a dude who didn't really pay too much attention to what I asked for, probably not following instructions. I'm going to look at other CVs first. I might come back to yours, but probably not. So when somebody says, do this and attach this, you think it's just some like, oh gosh, okay, that's something I need to do. No, it's what you really, really, really need to do to make sure that you're in that batch that I filter. I'm going to say this a few times today because I cannot stress how important it is for you to follow those instructions. So if it says click this link and complete this thing and attach these documents, do that. Don't write on the LinkedIn post interested or how do I apply? Follow what you've been given, like uber critical that you do that. I recommend a couple of portals, and you know, they look like a lot, and oh gosh, there's so many of them. But you know what? At this stage, your visibility is important. So the more places you can be found, the better. And the truth is, not every recruiter uses all of these platforms. So as an example, in my business, I only use Careers 24 and Executive Placements and LinkedIn, and then a couple of the kind of specialist niche platforms. Other recruiters might only use, sorry, I have to sneeze, Pnet and say Career Junction. So you need to be, oh, excuse me. So you need to kind of be everywhere to maximize your visibility. Now, if you are, say, in the design space, right? Or like graphic designers or content writers or marketing or any of those spaces, you might want to make sure you also have a profile on Behance, because you can upload your CV and a portfolio of work there. So when I recruit in that space, I look at LinkedIn, I look at job portals, but I also go to the platforms that these types of individuals use and where I might find you. So if you're an IT person, you might want to be on Git, you might want to be on Stack Overflow, you might want to be on Reddit as an example. So really go and look at where are the people in your space congregating, because that's where you want to be. You want to have a visibility where people like you would be found. Does that make sense? Anybody not following? Okay. Right. Let's go again. I'm giving you a choice. I'm saying to you, we can do format A on the left, my left, or format B on the other side. How many of you would say, let's go with format A? We love format A more. Hands up who loves format A. Okay. Cool. Bunch of you love format A. Oh, wow. Format A is winning. Yo. Okay. Sorry for you guys.
Sorry, Gita. I think we
Yes.
have a hand up.
Sure.
Yes, you can ask King Omar.
Sorry, I raised it by mistake.
Okay, no
Oh.
worries. Are you answering
Well-
whether you like A or B? Okay, cool.
Yes,
Lovely.
we have two other hands up, Gita, before you continue. We have Mbele. You can ask your question, Mr. Mbele.
Miss Winter, thanks, Mr. Ngubani. Miss Winter, you know, regarding A or B, personally, I like A, but I've been to this career workshop where they discouraged A. So
Yes.
they said that they are not interested in the photo, or which is what I see on the A letter. So that's why I ended up changing to B, to letter B. So now my CV looks more like letter B, but I changed it because it was discouraged. Otherwise, I would prefer A. So
Okay.
yeah,
Good.
thanks.
Yeah. And you know what? Whoever gave you that advice was 100% correct. B, from a searchability point of view, is far preferable and will get you more to be found. So the question always is, do you want to be found? Because the ATS system is going to find you with B. So you're going to be seen by a human. A, if you're lucky, you'll get seen by a human. And so, yes, it looks very nice when the human sees it, but you don't, but that's an if the human sees it. And here's why, right? So an ATS system, although many of them are very smart these days, and they are able to intuit and machine learn, the truth is they can't tell I say they because I feel like it's a person now. The ATS system can't tell the difference between this profile picture over here, so this one here, the picture, and these ones at the bottom, so Adobe, Photoshop, InDesign. It doesn't know the difference. So when I, as a recruiter, go and write, I'm looking for a graphic designer, which this person is, with InDesign, this CV is probably going to rank at the bottom of all of these CVs because of the word graphic designer. But if the same person had put that content in text format, I probably would have seen this person ranked in the top 100. Only because ATS systems cannot read graphics. They do not know how to interpret images. I happen to know that ID is InDesign. But what if you also had a junior recruiter who didn't know the logo for InDesign? They would have looked at those pictures and go, oh, their hobbies is AI, which is actually Adobe, and ID. Okay, cool story. Close. So you need to be mindful of what your goal is. Is it to be found, or is it ultimately to be seen by a human? And you want to be found first, because if you're not found first, you're not seen. So you can use and you can put all these cute little graphics in, provided, and here's the risk that you're taking up way more unnecessary space, provided that the searchable words, which I'm going to show you how to find now, is in text format only, not embedded in graphics. All these cute little slider bars that show how competent you are on it, because that's the whole sidebar is probably an embedded graphic that has been formatted when you save your CV. So not ideal at all. Okay. Also, and this is my recruiter OCD, like this one's also got grammatical errors. So if you look at Bachelor of Arts, lowercase, Master of Arts in an uppercase, yeah, it's like this CV is problematic all round. The one on the right is plain text, text rich, content rich, and this CV will get you found. This is the one. So if you've got a very graphic image, a CV, you may want to go and look at it. If you have a very fancy one, word art, pictures, all sorts of things, then you may want to go and relook at that one as well. Okay. Right. Here's some CV 101s, basics. I say don't write in the first person, but if you do, it's not a train smash. So I am a. Recruiters very often put their CVs in their own formats, and it just takes more work for them to change I am to he or she or whatever the case may be. You want to use power words because they help shorten sentences. And power words, as an example, would be collaborated with, designed, constructed, compiled, and because you try me out afterwards, it helps you shorten concepts into a much shorter sentence when you start the sentence like this. Instead of in my role I did bank recons, you could have said reconciled bank statements. It's a much more descriptive way of writing out your duties. You want to avoid too many generic overused words. And by those, I mean putting words in for the sake of it that don't really add value. So let me give you some examples. Almost 95% of CVs we see say, I'm hardworking, dedicated, passionate, pay attention to detail. But that it almost becomes like stock sentences in CVs. They don't really say anything about you. They don't really sell you. They just overuse blah, blah, blah words. And my question there is, well, what are you trying to demonstrate by using that word, right? So if you pay attention to detail as an example, a better way, and to answer the question of how do I stand out, a better way of saying that is to say, my highly analytical skills resulted in a reconciliation where I identified discrepancies in a much shorter period of time and was able to recoup X amount of money as a result. That would be a better way of saying attention to detail. Or you could say something like, in a VAC work opportunity, I was tasked with capturing highly complex medical data with high volumes, which achieved X. Way better attention to detail. You are giving context to say the outcome of that skill. Way better. You want to use bullets versus paragraphs. Bullets are easier to read. Paragraphs are stories. It's hard on the eye. It's very difficult to see where something starts or ends. So if you're using storytelling, you need to think about changing that up into bullet points of highly valuable data. You want to use space wisely and don't state the obvious. So as an example, if you have a cover page on your CV that says CV, but if your file was named correctly, we'd know it was your CV. And then you've either got a huge profile picture or worse, a stock image of that person sitting at a laptop, or for some or other weird reason people put trains, there's two. You're not adding value. That whole page adds zero value whatsoever. And we know it's your CV, so you don't need to state that. There are a couple of things that really don't need to be included. Your marital status, how many children you have, your entire residential address. I personally don't advocate for adding your ID because it opens you up to cloning and use of information. You don't need to put your hobbies. You don't need to put every subject you did in matric. You don't need to list every module of every semester you've ever done, unless it's valuable, and I'll show you how that needs to be done. I saw your
Gita?
hand. I'll get back to you now. Yeah,
Okay. I
I
was
saw
just
it.
highlighting the hand that is up.
Yes.
Mr. Mgomezulu, you can speak.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. I want to ask, you said we must not include our ID numbers.
Look, I'm not saying you mustn't. I personally wouldn't recommend it. I would say rather use a date of birth, because your ID number can be used by unscrupulous people. And let's
Yeah.
be honest, there are so many job scams out there. The less you give somebody to take your data, the better. And a date of birth should suffice. If the company then asks specifically for an ID number, then do some due diligence and then send it.
Thank you a lot.
Yes,
Good.
Ms. Winter, before you continue, there's a message in the chat box that says, could you kindly clarify the maximum number of pages that are acceptable for a CV?
Oh, okay, that's a hard one. So I know that there's a lot of people running around saying your CV shouldn't be more than 2 or 3 pages long. If you've done an incredibly good summary page, and I'll show you what that's going to look like now, you give the reader the option of looking for more detail. And if you highlight specific aspects of the detail in those extra 3 or 4 pages, you'd attract the reader's eye to what they need to see. Then it's okay to have a CV of 3, 4, 5 pages. The risk is, it's okay, and it's easy now when you're still students and you may have only had 1 or 2 jobs. Think about if you were me, right? I've worked something like 35 or more years, right? How do I condense my entire working life into 2 pages without losing context? Because context is what matters. So if I don't give the reader enough, they're not going to know what I've done. And then I might not rank high enough, or they may not see the connection. If I give too much invaluable data, the same is true. So you need to balance the number of pages with how you've constructed your CV to give me a good summary and overview of why you align to that role, and highlight the key aspects in the detail that attract me to what I need to read. And then even 5 pages is not too long. I just want you to stop and think for 1 minute. Have I taken out so much to get to 2 pages that I've started to look like a bottle of shampoo? Or would I rather construct it well to give the context that makes me stand out? So I know the answer is a bit like, how long is a piece of string? but too long is invaluable, too short is destructive. There's a good balance. So maybe by the end of this, we'll have an idea. And if you're still worried about it, we can discuss it again. Okay, is that good? All right. Okay, where are we? What doesn't need to be included? We covered that. Profile pictures are also kind of like one of those do I or don't I. I am not a fan of profile pictures on a CV because unfortunately we live in a world filled with unconscious bias. If I don't like the look of your hair, or I decide that that lipstick she's wearing is dreadful, or oh my gosh, she looks like my ex-girlfriend, I don't want to know nothing about it. I also kind of feel like, am I employing you because of how you look, or am I employing you because of what you can do? And unless you asked for a profile picture, I personally wouldn't suggest adding it, but it is entirely up to you. But if you choose to use one, please make sure it's a good head and shoulders shot, not where you've cropped another person out and there's like fingers hanging over a shoulder, or there's somebody's forehead stuck on the side of your head, or you've forgotten that your bedroom was a mess and you can see all the chaos behind you, or even worse, and trust me, you think it doesn't happen, but you do, where you've taken the selfie and the camera's in front of your face, but you forgot the urinal in the background. Like, these things genuinely happen. So if you use one, make sure it's one that you want me to see, because it is a part of your personal brand. So whatever you put there is something you're giving me to make a decision on. And we all filter that through our own internal filters, systems, and biases. So if it were me, I'd personally rather leave it off. Okay. Value statements and examples, absolutely critical. You want a value statement. You want that what's in it for the reader statement on your CV. And that also helps the reader decide whether the extra 3 pages are worth having a look at, and less important as to whether there's 3 pages, because you told me what I want to see. Dates and titles per role are critical. So it's great that you've listed all your jobs, but I need to see when you started and ended and what job titles there are. There's also another reason why you want to do that, because job titles are search words for recruiters. So if I'm looking for a junior developer, the fact that that's in there as a job title makes you rank higher. The ATS systems, some of them are also incredibly smart. So if I say junior developer, it will go to your CV and it will align or correlate the dates with the job titles, and those people with more experience might rank higher. I'm saying might because it's not a defined. But if you've got that opportunity to put those in, you really, really want to do it because you want to rank higher. So take every opportunity that you can get. Yes, there's more 101 stuff. So word art and borders are for me, absolute no-nos. It's very cute that there's a whole bunch of Christmas tree and muffin looking thingies around your CV, but it takes up space. It's not readable by the ATS. And quite frankly, it detracts from the value of your CV. You don't need any of them. You want to look at the alignment of your CV, right? All your bullets must be straight. All your text must be straight. If you're putting in tables, the tables must be the same size. The tables must be aligned all in the right way. Everything can't be either centered or left aligned or right aligned, and then the next table is completely different. You need to make sure that there is complete and utter consistency through your CV. If you've used size 10, you must use size 10 everywhere. If you've used black, it must be black everywhere. If you've used circle bullets, there must be circle bullets everywhere. It can't be squares here and circles there and those funny little like 4 dotted doodads somewhere else. It must be consistent. Simpler, the better. Plain fonts. If you're using headings, use the same font, maybe a size bigger, maybe bold, but not that curly font that it's so difficult to read the words, or whether you've been cute and you've added in those shadows and beveled edges and whatnot to all the words. It's incredibly draining on the eyes to read, and it adds no real value. So really think about that. I'm going to get to the gaps last. When I'm talking about incomplete qualifications, it may be later on in your career where you started something and you didn't finish it. You thought you were going to finish it, but you just never quite got around to it. You don't want to have too many of those in your CV. Unless, and this is the exception rather than the rule, if you apply for a job and that partial qualification was somehow strategically required for that role you're applying for, then you want to put it in. But you don't want to give the impression that you start and you don't really finish stuff. Again, there are times when you've started a qualification and you may have gone into accounting and decided, oh my soul, I hate accounting. I'm going to become an IT developer. You may have used those credits towards the balance of what you finished. You might want to include it then with maybe a sidebar note to say what credits used for whatever you finished. It is so important to name your documents correctly. Not my updated CV or Johannesburg CV, Gita Winter CV, John Smith CV. It is part, again, I want to say it's part of your personal brand. It shows that you took the time to complete your stuff, that you've professionally labeled your stuff. Super important. Spell check and proofread. In fact, proofread twice, spell check once, because even spell check can have creepy crawlies in them. And I'm going to show you some really funny things. They're funny now, but it's not funny if it was your CV, right? You want to make sure that what spell check picked up was not spelled right in the wrong context. I'll show you some examples now. But if there's gaps, and again, it might not be now while you're still studying, but if you've worked through your career, and COVID was a great example, where a lot of companies closed down or roles became redundant or you retrenched, and you only found a job 2 years later, you might want to put that as a reason in a gap for multiple purposes. You don't want to leave too much open to interpretation. Oh, gosh, I wonder what happened in that job. Did he maybe get fired? Is he unemployable? What's going on there? But you also did something in that gap to keep yourself busy or to earn money. Side hustle, maybe. Those are valuable to put in there. But it also explains the flow and gives context. It allows me to see what happened. And, even if it was a personal sabbatical, that's okay. The knowing sometimes just helps. I saw there was a hand. So before I move to some of the examples of poor spell checking, proofreading, well, can I answer a question?
Yes, I think we've got Tin Njanga, so his hand is up. If we can unmute, and then Njanga, so you can ask your question.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for allowing me to ask a question. My question is based on the qualifications. So, do we have to inform that the qualification was started and when the qualification was finished? What are the obstacles that as a student we faced during completing our qualification, all those stuffs. So I just want to know there.
Okay. You do want to list completed qualifications, and it's primary major. You really don't need to list every module that was part of every semester throughout the 2 or 3 years, however long you studied for, unless, of course, it's valuable. So let's say you're applying for a finance intern position in investment banking, and one of your electives or whatever it was very relevant to that. You might want to mention that, but you want to list every completed qualification, the name of the tertiary institution, and the year it was completed. Whether you want to go into detail about all the struggles you faced during your qualification, if there were any, I'd say no, not on a CV, perhaps in an interview, because it could give context to your resilience and your ability to persevere. but not on a CV. No. Okay. Right. Here's some funny examples. Have a look and see if you can spot these things.
Oh, sorry, Gita.
Yes.
There's one or two questions in the chat that
Okay.
maybe I'd like to
Happy? Yeah.
look at. Okay, so let me find it. There's a question about, I don't know if you addressed this one, but there's a question about someone who has little or no experience. What are the kinds of things that they can include in their CV? You know, students fresh out of varsity, just graduated, very little work experience. How can they make their CV more impressive?
I'm going to get to that one, so I'm going to park that. Again, if you feel when we get there that I haven't answered it enough, let me know and we can talk about we can use some real life examples, but I'm definitely going to cover that now.
Okay, all right. No, that's fine. And maybe you can couple that with that response with the issue of qualifications. There may be people looking for jobs, but they haven't quite completed their initial qualification. How can they apply for that job? You know, not obviously one where there's express requirements for a qualification, but what are the kinds of things they can do around lack of qualifications?
Okay. All right. I'll cover that for you now as well. So I'm going to park the one about what you can do to make your CV stand out with little to no, because I'm definitely going to cover that. The other one is there's no hard and fast rule, right? Some companies are willing to look at candidates, even though the spec may say national diploma preferred. If you don't have one at all, you would need to demonstrate technical competency for that role. If you have no technical competency for the role or transferable skills, and you have no qualification, you're probably not meeting at least 60% of that job spec, in which case I'm going to say to you, need not bother to apply, because there isn't enough for you to apply with. If, for example, you're looking for work-based experience to complete a qualification, so you haven't yet finished, you can, that's understandable in the market. Most experienced recruiters and HR companies or HR managers in companies get that. But if you haven't completed a qualification for whatever reason, or you are near completion, there's a lot you can use. And one of them being your transcripts up to that date, to show that you have passed to the point where you need workplace experience, or where you only have 2 modules left in order to complete your qualification. And your track record of transcript shows that you haven't consistently failed, and you've gotten reasonable marks to predict that you will in fact pass that finals in order to achieve graduation. So both of those opportunities, both those scenarios exist. Okay.
Thank you very much, Gita.
Okay, so here's some real life CVs. This person meant to say drug sorter, but it came out to drug snorter, which ordinarily wouldn't be too funny. It wouldn't be too bad, except for a pharmacist assistant, where you really don't want somebody snorting drugs. Like really, really. And a basic spell check would have fixed, snorter is fine, but if a proofreading would have fixed that. Pubic Relations Officer, and even Department of Health is highlighted. So even Word told you something's not lacquer there, right? But pubic relations should have been Public Relations Officer. I mean, it's a whoopsie. It's not, but it takes on a different connotation altogether. So again, spell checked words, no problem. Context, not great. These are even more ridiculous. They took a career break in 1999 to renovate their horse. Okay, I don't really care about 1999 and these are CVs from this year, right? See, to renovate my horse. I'm sure they meant their house for starters, but who cares what you did in 1999 anyway? So, yeah, okay, cool. The value of commas. I'm not going to read all of them. You can see attention to detail there is messed up already. My duties included cleaning the restrooms, which are bathrooms, and seating the customers. Oh, my soul, if there couldn't be a better place for a comma, seating customers in the bathroom, like seriously? Yeah, you see what I mean? Context, grammar, spell check would have picked this up. Proofreading, different story. Okay, so real CVs, strong work ethic, attention to detail. Oopsie, sorry. Twice, and attention is spelled wrong. I mean, you couldn't have undone what you were trying to say any more by that statement. You literally told me that attention to detail was thrown into your CV to fill space because you have zero attention to detail. So be careful what it is that you don't proofread. Right. Your CV is as simple as these things: who, why, where, what, and how. If you've covered these 5, your CV is already probably on safe ground. Who is you, right? Your personal details. And on that note, remembering that your CV is part of your personal brand, make sure that your email address, because Gmail is free, let's be honest about that, isn't hotbunny69@gmail. And we see these. Name, surname, or surname, name. And sometimes, Google requires you to put a couple of numbers if your name's already been taken, but a professional sounding email address. If you're one of those people who have 2 different cell phone numbers, please make sure that you tell us which one we're phoning you on and which one we're texting you on. Because if you're making it hard for us to reach you, we might not try very hard. If we've tried you once and we can't get hold of you and there's no voicemail, and now we have to try another thing, and we try phone that number and there's no way to phone you. So just make very sure that your personal details are something that are professional and that are your primary means of contact. There are lots of people that put alternative numbers on. We really, and as much as it's nice to say, oh, well, here's another way of getting hold of me, it needs to be you. We do not want to speak to your girlfriend or your mother or your sister ever in a job search. We want to only speak to you. So if you're going to give us alternatives, please make them your own details. The why is that value statement. Why do you align to what I'm looking for, right? So you give me that, you've covered the why. You're giving me reason to look at you. You're telling me why I should be bothered to read your CV, or why you make my eyes twinkle when I look at your CV. The where is what qualifications do you have? What work experience? Where have you gathered experience or knowledge for this particular role? The what is the duty. So what have you actually done day by day in certain roles, or where you have very little work experience? How do you show me what it is that you've done that make you suitable for this position? And we'll cover that, Nana. And the how is context. So let me give you an example here so that you can see what I mean. Let's say you're in finance, right? And you do bank recons. Now, I can look at 3 CVs that say reconcile bank statements. Cool. What would make me sit up and really pay attention if you said to me, reconcile 5 large volume bank statements with 5,000 lines of entry and book values of about 2 million rand. All of a sudden, I'm understanding the level and complexity to which you reconcile bank statements. So given the choice, and I've got those 3 CVs, I'm going to phone this person before I'm phoning those other 2. That's what context does. And that's why if we go back to that previous question about how long or how short should my CV be, if you're giving me that, I'd rather read another page than tell me I can reconcile a bank statement, because okay, that's cool, but it's not setting you apart. Any questions up to here? I'm going to cover the how. So, but if you've got questions on this, the kind of basic, simple who, why, where, what, how.
Ma'am, can you please explain again why?
Why?
Yes.
Okay. So imagine you go into game and you're looking to buy a TV, and you stand in front of the banks of TVs, and the sales consultant comes up to you and says, I think you should buy that Samsung. Your question to the man's going to be, why? Why should I buy that Samsung? And he's then going to say, well, it comes preloaded with this, and the curved screen does this for your eyes, and the price is this, and the TV comes with a spare remote and a this and a that. He's going to sell you the reason why that Samsung TV should be yours. Now, if you take that same concept and you apply it to the CV, right? I'm the buyer of the TV. So in this case, you're the salesperson and your CV is the TV. When I'm standing in front of that thing and trying to decide between the 3 CVs I've got, or the 3 TVs for this, in this example, why should I look at yours, or why should I phone you instead of the 2 others? And the way you do that is to sell me the value proposition. What are you going to do for me? Why would you be a better option than somebody else? Does that cover it? Does that help answer the question if you ever asked that?
Yes, yes, it does help. And then lastly, that statement, where do you put it now in your CV?
Okay, you put it right on page 1. I want to see your personal details, and then I want to know why, because that why immediately defines whether I go and read anything more. If I have to work hard to find your why, I'm probably, if you are CV number 75, I'm probably going to skip you because you made me work far too hard to see the reason. Because, you know, again, think about it like this. If you go into Vodacom, right? And you're trying to buy a phone, and the guy starts telling you about the name of the person that designed the screen, who lives in Germany and who then moved to South Africa, and then he decided that black was a great color, and then he decided that you know what, maybe I should make it 2 millimeters thick, and then already you've lost me, right? Or you've lost the buyer. If you come and tell me it's got a 5 megapixel camera, it's preloaded, it's got 15 gigs of RAM, now I'm thinking, okay, cool, that sounds like what I want. Right up front, big, bold, and center. Tell me why. And I've got it in the exact order, right? Who you are, so your personal details. Why am I looking at you? Where do you have the experience and the knowledge that I want? How have you done that? And tell me how, where, or what have you done? And tell me how you've done it so that I can make a decision on your ability to apply it to complexity or volume. Make sense?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay, cool. Right, here's how a good CV is going to be structured. I like to have the contact details in a header because it takes it away from the body of the CV, so it also cuts out some space. But also, you give the recruiter or the hiring manager the ability to find you no matter what page of the CV they land on. Because if I get to page 3 and go, oh, I love this person, I'm going to phone them, I don't have to scroll. I can go to the top. There's your number. Pick up the phone. I call you. We're done. Right? It's simpler. Do you have to? No. But put them at the top of your CV if you're not going to use a header. A summary page, so that's kind of page 1, is that profile statement and your key skills. So the key skills relative to the job you're applying for. Your summary of work experience in a little table. So the job in reverse chronological order, so the most recent job to the oldest. Name of the company, your job title, and the period that you worked there. Then a good summary of your qualifications, additional courses, whatever it is that you've done, also in reverse chronological order from the most recent to the oldest, because the most recent are probably the most relevant, like your work experience. Very often the last 2 or 3 roles are more relevant than your very first job ever. And then you want your work in detail, so with context, so your duties, your responsibilities, the software you may have used, your book values, all of that would be after your summary page. Then if you work in environments like projects, so engineering, IT, project management, design, anything where there are project-based things, you want to give me a project summary. If you're in IT, you might want to give me a skills matrix. If you're in design, you might want to give a portfolio of work, or when you're in your contact details, you want to give a link to your portfolio of work. So if you're a web designer or a graphic designer, you want to send me some examples of your work, give me a link. Let me go and have a look at what you've done. References are optional. Now nobody really going to phone your professor or a supervisor or your high school principal. It's more so when you've worked a role or two, or you've done some back work or volunteer work, then provide those references. If you remember this one thing, no matter how far you go in your career, never put your current manager's reference details on your CV. You put your job at risk. If a recruiter phones your current manager and go, hey, I'd like to see reference Joe, and they go, oh, I didn't know Joe was leaving. It puts your job at risk. So just never do it then. But past references, your immediate line manager or reporting manager, if you don't want to share that information, or if you don't have permission to share that details, then say references on request, and that is okay. All right, so this is how a good structure of a CV. Any questions on this?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
So with regards to the contact details, I just want to ask that in terms of being called, which is an appropriate tone or words to start with if we are called by a recruiter? Because I've heard sometimes a tone of your voice can change their mind.
You are 100% correct. So if you've got your CV in the job market, you might want to think, and I know it's so awkward, right? I even do it myself sometimes. Like my cell phone number is the company number. And sometimes I'm like busy and I'll pick up and go, hello. And I should say, Gita Winter, how can I help you? Or good afternoon, Gita speaking. If I know I'm in the job market, you want to know how you're going to answer your phone. And you want to always assume that a recruiter or a hiring manager is phoning you. So you want to keep it light and professional and not like we've just dragged you out of bed. And believe me, you are so right. The tone matters. So there's times when I phone someone and they go, yeah. And I go, sure, okay, interesting. Or, huh? Or there's dead silence. And trust me, I also get the dead silence one because you're also waiting to see if it's that spam call that says, this is an important consumer announcement ding. So I would just say rather assume it's a recruiter and be light and professional and introduce yourself so we know you speak to the right person. But to be conscious of that a recruiter may phone you early morning and sometimes after hours, and you want to keep it professional no matter who it is, right? Even if it's your friend phoning, as long, if the phone number comes up with Jane, it's Jane, then answer however you would have answered. But if it's an unknown number, rather assume it's a recruiter and answer professionally, light-hearted but professional. So you don't want to go, my name is Gita, hello. Or Gita speaking, hello. You want to go, it's Gita speaking, hi. Or Gita speaking, how can I help you? It's without sounding like the Energizer Bunny or you're putting on this big tone. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions before I move on? No. Yes, there's one.
Ma'am, do we have to include, let's say, maybe past experience from other companies? Let's say I was maybe working maybe at a company which does not deal with the job that I've really applied for. So let's say maybe I was working at a sports scene, and then now I'm applying for a job to be an engineer. So does that experience count, or do I just have to exclude it from my CV because maybe I don't know. I don't know how to put it.
The
Is
answer
it
is yes. At this stage of your career, the answer is yes. It may not be directly related, and it is one of the ways of getting your CV to stand out. But if you think about that job at Sports Scene, right? It taught you how to deal with difficult people. It taught you timekeeping. It taught you how probably stock taking. It taught you customer service. There were lots of skills that you learned in that environment that are generic workplace requirements. And the fact that you were able to study and work at the same time says something also about you, right? So don't undervalue what you see, what you think are irrelevant jobs, because you can, and remember, you own the story. So what you choose to tell me is what I'm going to see. But when I see a student that has had part-time work, I immediately know, or I assume, unless you are fired, of course, which is not often the case, that you knew how to follow instructions, that you met some of your requirements of what you were expected to do, that you understand general workplace etiquette, and that's a win already, right? So please don't leave those things off, all right? So we're actually at this topic now. So, right, you want to know how you can stand out or showcase suitability even if you've got very little work experience. Any work experience is valuable if you sell me the why or how it's relatable, right? So let's say that Sports Scene one, and you got a recommendation from a customer. Somebody went to your manager and said, oh, you know what, Gita was so awesome in helping me, and I understand that I was difficult, so I appreciate that. That is almost a success story, right? Not almost, it is a success story. And it is a way to showcase that your work ethic is above and beyond, right? No matter that Gita was standing screaming in the shop, you still found a way to calm me down and sort out my issues, right? Valuable experience. But if you are in your first year now, or in fact, even if you are this late in your third or final year, there's a saying that I absolutely love. You either pay now or you pay later. Either way, you're paying, but later is more expensive. And by that I mean when you're looking for work, it's too late. Now is the time to sacrifice. You're young, you can sleep when you're my age. But if you can find volunteer work in your weekends, in your holidays, that allow you to showcase your skills, do it. In fact, make it a mission to do it now, because that's what sets you apart. And you have a reference for somebody who can tell me how awesome you were in that environment. If you can apply for those what is the word I'm looking for, formal VAC work opportunities, like at Ernst & Young or wherever. There are lots of companies, not lots, there are a lot of companies that offer VAC work. Take those opportunities if you can. If you do projects, and let's be honest, all of you have done projects through your qualification, right? Some were team, some were individual. You can use those projects and their outcomes as evidence of application of learning. So don't forget about those projects. Part-time work like that, like retail stores or promotions jobs or whatever it is, are valuable. For any of the IT students or those people that do graphic design, you know it's true in your family or your community or in your friend group. When my laptop stops opening up Microsoft, who's the first person I go to? You. You're the one that sorts it out. So if you're doing a IT degree with or an IT diploma with a major in software support, that is valuable experience, and you should be putting it on your CV. So if you designed logos for your buddy's business, or you did their books on the side because you were just helping out, or you worked in a family business, all of that can be immensely valuable when you have very little workplace experience to showcase. Think hard about those things. They are, and what it is that you learned there. I promise you, if you dig deep, you'll see that you learned so much valuable stuff in those spaces. Sorry. I also want you to also think about periods where you had to hustle. And so many of us, we downplayed that hustle, the things we had to do to survive or to get through varsity. So I'm going to use the example of selling fruits and vegetables on a street corner. So many people underestimate the business mindset and acumen you have to sell vegetables and fruit on a corner. First of all, you have to procure stock. You need to find suppliers. You need to be able to budget. You need to be able to manage stock levels. You need to be able to find the right spot. You need to be able to deliver customer service, and you need to be able to reconcile stock and money. You telling me that those are not valuable workplace skills? I would beg to differ. And I'm saying, think hard about where you have demonstrated skills, where you've applied knowledge. No matter how irrelevant it may sound to you now, it contributes to an overall picture of your abilities, skills, and value. Leadership skills also, I mean, as you progress through your career, stuff that happened at school becomes less relevant and you'll drop it off as you progress. But at this stage, if you were the prefect in high school, that's great. If you manage a club at the varsity, that's great. If you were the head of res, if you were the treasurer at res, if you you happen to become the leader in all of your group projects, those are things that you can utilize to demonstrate leadership skills. And of course, we've covered what you do in your personal capacity, helping friends, family, and the like. So for the person that asked me, how do I showcase standing out, or how do I put stuff on my CV where I've got very little to work experience, does this give you some ideas?
Yes, this helps a lot, Gita. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, good. Again,
there's
yes.
also, sorry, Gita, hi. There's a few questions in the chat box. Is it mandatory to always put the copy of the National Senior Certificate in the CV? And is there a standard CV template that we could be guided by? And in your opinion, is it mandatory or recommended to put in your picture on your CV?
Alrighty, we've covered all of those, so I don't recommend a picture at all. I think it opens you up for unconscious bias, and the premise is that you shouldn't be employed for how you look, but what you can do. So I personally don't like it. But again, if you're going to do it, make it sure professional. I would never recommend attaching any documents like your national senior certificate, your ID, to your actual CV. You're giving too many unscrupulous people all the documents and data they need to clone you, or to what's the word when you steal identity theft. Rather save them as separate documents, correctly named, and provide them when they are asked for. If the instructions on the application say, please send your CV together with your transcripts and your matric certificate, then do that. But as a standard, please don't include them on your CV. Good. Photos we've done. Did I answer all the questions or did I miss one? I feel like I missed one.
Somebody asked about a standard CV template.
Okay. Yes, there is a good CV standard template that I would recommend. I'm happy to share it, and I will send it I'll send it and it can be passed on. Or what I can do, yeah, I'll send it and it can be passed on or put on a shared services site or whatever happens. Is that good? Can I do that? Share it with... I can maybe try and attach it to the chat. I'll see if it allows me to attach it to the chat. Okay.
Oh, chat will be nice.
Okay, I'll try and do it now. I just need to go and look for it, but I'll do it. Okay.
Awesome.
Here's a copy of a profile statement. So that value statement that's on the first bit of your CV that we see very often. I'm a hardworking, dedicated person, passionate about my field. My qualification is directly aligned to the requirements of the job, and I've done some vacation work that allow me to hit the ground running. I'm looking forward to add value to this position. Anybody like to guess what this person does or what they applied for? I hope not, because they didn't tell you anything. They used lots of generic, hardworking, passionate, but who knows? Because if I just read this, what am I getting from this? Not much. Done some back work. Okay, cool, nice. You think you can hit the ground running? Super duper. You see, nothing really of much value here. Here's some better examples. Example 1, developer. Experienced in front-end and back-end development across multiple coding languages, a focus on UX. Successfully developed a number of websites, including a complex e-commerce site, link provided below. Strong collaboration skills with previous client-facing experience in a consulting environment. Both of these, interestingly enough, happened to be developers. This one and this one. Which one would you have read? Which one would you have maybe thought, ooh, this is a good one. Let me see what else they've got to say. You have to say the second one because the first one really didn't tell me anything. So let's go here. The second one is if you were, say, an industrial engineer, process engineer, one of those. Improved operational efficiency by 30%, which resulted in a reduction in turnaround from 3 to 2 days. Adept at the utilization of a number of methodologies, including Lean and 5S. Exposure to a wide variety of projects, including manufacturing. Absolute value, quantifiable context to why this might be relevant for me. Do you see the difference between these and this? Speaks directly to the role, directly to skill sets, directly to the context that is absolutely relevant for me as the reader. I saw there was a hand.
Hi.
Yes, DJ Chand, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for going through this with us. It's really informative. My question is, in example 2, you show that there was improved operational efficiency by about 30%. How do we figure out these values?
Okay, so this is assuming that you worked in this kind of space, right? And in that role, one of the things you would need to have done would have been to measure the outcome of your project. So these stats would have been available in a workplace. But if you didn't have them now, as an example, right? Let's say you were you were studying process engineering at the moment, and you worked on a project. You could have put something like, I was exposed to a project where I was required to, which resulted in, or I simulated a project with using Lean and 5S, or it might have been, say, a finance position, like I used earlier, where economics was a focus. So you could have said, achieved a distinction in my economics project with some job shadowing knowledge at Investec Bank, as an example. So you really need to think about, what do I know, or what have I done, or what do I have that would be out of the ordinary? So I'm not saying I'm hardworking, dedicated, and passionate. I'm giving something to latch onto. Does that make sense?
Yes, okay. Thank you so much.
There was another hand before we move on.
Yes, Ms. Winter, just wanted to ask, is it okay or valid that we sound repetitive in our CV?
Why would you want to do that? So tell me why.
For example, here at the profile statement that we mention our duties and what we have done, and we have made, like we were involved in a specific project or anything, and then maybe down the line in our CV when we mention our skills and qualification.
Got it.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, you're not duplicating. So this is not a duty. This is a statement, right? You have experience in front-end and back-end development, but your duties would read differently. It would say, designed user interfaces for site, integrated database with whatever. You tested unit, did unit testing. But that all contributed to the successful development of a website. Your duties would not necessarily say it was a complex e-commerce site. Your duties would say that you developed multiple websites. You see what I mean? So you've got the opportunity to talk about the highlights of the outcomes of those duties, but you want to also repeat the keywords that would be searchable. So like UX, right? One of your duties might be tested UX functionality, but this is a highlight. That's the action. Does that make sense? But
Yes,
you don't want to repeat
yes.
it for the sake of saying the same sentence over and over and over again. But you do want it in
Okay,
enough times to be relevant.
Okay, I understand.
Awesome. Right, is there anything else or can we move on? Okay. A profile statement in its essence is like an elevator pitch, right? It's that catch to have a further discussion. So remember always, it's what's in it for the reader. What am I getting by reading that? What are you telling me that I need to know about you? And it's a punchy 3 to 5 sentences that emphasize strengths, experiences, and make the best case for why you're the candidate. So 3 to 5 sentences rather than blah, 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 blah. Okay. I want to move on to how to customize your CV because this part is super boring, but probably one of the most important things you'll ever do, right? So when we talked about earlier, the keywords and repetition of the keywords, you need to have a good bunch of keywords in your CV to rank higher in that search. So if I looked for UX in that previous example, if you have it 2 or 3 times in your CV, you're going to rank higher. Now, ATS systems are they're much smarter now, so they might understand user interfaces or UI and user interfaces interchangeably. So you can use it. But there's a lot of sections. If you think about your CV, where you can bulk that up, but you need to know what those words actually are first. So here's how you do it. You need to have the job you're applying for in mind, because that's what you've been most likely applying for. So go and find 5 job specs or 10 and 5 profiles of the people that are in those roles already, but they need to be good ones. So not those people that just whacked out their job title and they've got nothing. So job specs are better. You're going to sit and read that job spec line by line by line. And what you're looking for is what is most common across all of those, because that is what is almost industry standard, for want of a better word, right? So if they use the word full stack developer instead of front and back end, you need to notice that. If they say C++ is a requirement on 7 of the 10 job specs, you want to note that. And when you've got this good list of what is most common across all of those profiles or those specs, you want to sit and review it against your own CV. And this is not just a now thing, it's for the rest of your career thing. And what you want to do is you want to look for the gaps. So is there a tech stack I don't understand? Is there a software that I don't use? Is there a duty that I don't do yet? And sometimes, interestingly, you do the duty, but you haven't worded it like that, or you have forgotten to include it because it's kind of like, duh, obviously that's how I do it, but it's not duh to the reader sometimes. So you want to make sure that all of those things are worded like that in your CV, right? So if the job title across all 7 or all 10 CVs junior developer, but your CV says coding ninja, then you want to make sure that you change that to be junior developer, because I'm never going to search coding ninja. I'm going to search junior developer. And it's an opportunity for you to go and say, what are the key skills? Are they listed like that? Are my job titles consistent with the market requirements? Are my responsibilities and duties listed so that, oh, I've done that, but I forgot to add it. You've got a chance to do it now. And that your profile or that value statement encompasses what is mostly expected of this kind of job. Because on a job platform like a PNet, you can only load one CV. You can't load 5 versions of it. So you want to make sure that that one CV is representative of what is most common in your space in its entirety, because you can customize 1 or 2 when you apply directly to a role. You can align it individually, but you can't do it for a stock CV that's going on a job profile. And then I want to encourage you to right now go and diarize to check the CV at least once a quarter, because you think nothing changes in a quarter, but it does. You go on a pastel course, you do an extra Udemy course, you all of a sudden did some back work, there was an extra project, you've got a skills matrix that or the job changes, right? Think 2 years ago. So some of you who may have started your qualification 2 years ago, AI was not as predominant as it is now. In fact, it was almost unheard of. But now it's a thing. So if you haven't got the use of AI in your CV now, I'm going to assume you don't have it at all. I'm not going to assume that you do. So self-checking your CV quarterly should become a habit you develop for the rest of your life, whether you're looking to change jobs or not. Because when you need the CV and somebody's going, can you send me your CV? You don't want to take 2 weeks to update it, because that person's going to think, eesh, not that interested in this job. You want it like this. And if it's always updated, I promise you it's a nightmare to go and try and update your CV a year or 2 down the road. You forget your successes. You forget your projects. There is so much catch up to do. It's not worth it. Remember that pay now, pay later? Rather pay now. Keep it up to date frequently. Right. Questions on this, because it really, really is important. No? Okay. Right. Cover letter.
Sorry, Gita.
Yes.
Somebody says, do you recommend including LinkedIn courses on your CV?
LinkedIn? Links. LinkedIn what?
Courses that they do on LinkedIn.
Yes, but not under the formal education. Put a separate section for online learning and put it there. It demonstrates continuous improvement, self-development. It's a win for me. Yes, do it. Any others, or can we move on? I saw a hand.
Somebody's hand is up. Yeah, you can unmute and ask a question.
Yes, ma'am. So the one where you said extract, is it? No, it's the oh yeah, here. It's extract common languages and requirements. So this does this mean that if post or a vacancy and their requirements maybe saying we want someone who has Python, this and this and this and this, can I take that and maybe try and change it a little bit, but put it on my skills or something? Would it help me, or it's just
only if you've actually done it?
Or so you
Not just because, but if you know that 7 of the 10 job specs you looked at required Python skills, it's not so that you can just go and add the word Python. It's to tell you that if you're going to apply for those kinds of jobs, you need to learn Python. And when you've learned Python, put it on. I'm talking about stuff like when I say common languages and requirements, it's both a self-check audit so that you know what you need to upskill on if you don't have it. But it's also, like I said, if the industry says junior developer and your CV says coding ninja, then you need to change it because it's a synonym, right? It's a different word to say the same thing. I'm not saying put in stuff that you don't have. You need to know that if you want to apply for a job, you need to meet about 60% of the criteria. So if you don't have Python, go do a Udemy course, go and do some, go and practice some coding, go and follow a course, and then you can put Python self-learning if you've completed any learning. Does that answer the question?
I think it does. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Righty. Let's look at, should we have a cover letter or should we not have a cover letter? In my business, and there are a couple of recruiters who agree and who have a similar sentiment to me, I have not read a cover letter in the last 12 years, not one. I've seen a lot because people have, when I've done coaching and like students, I've seen some, but I don't open them. If it's attached, I don't really open them. And that's because they generally say nothing. They go, I saw a position which I was really interested in, and I've attached my CV, and I think I'm perfectly suited to this position. I look forward to hearing from you. Okay, well, I saw that you attached a CV. So if you're sending me a piece of paper to tell me that there's a CV, you're not selling your role. But if you choose to send a cover letter, tell me why. So I want to see your spec requirements asked for X, Y, and Z, and this is how I match those requirements. This is where I've excelled. This is where I've added value previously. This is what I think I can do for you. Then you've got a cover letter. If your cover letter says attach the CV, don't even bother because most people don't read the cover letter. If your CV is well constructed, you're telling me everything I need to know. If you send an email though, and your body of your email effectively replaces the cover letter. So don't send me an email that says attached is my cover letter and then attach a cover letter and also a CV because there's absolutely zero value to that. I'm really not going to do it. I'm not going to open it and I'm not going to read attached is my CV. Make it valuable if you send it. There are some job portals, and I'm not talking about like Peanuts and stuff, like an F&B's careers pages, where sometimes they require you to upload a cover letter. When they're inviting you to do it, it's not to say attached is my CV. They're inviting you to tell them why you match, that we're going back to that why. So then you're going to take out your profile statement. You're going to put in a cover letter. You're going to review the job spec and you're going to give them actual context into why they should look. That's why they asked for the cover letter, not to state the obvious. Okay. Throughout your whole life, in the recruitment process, you're very often asked for your copy of your ID, copy of your national, your matric certificate, your tertiary qualifications and your transcripts, your driver's license, and in some instances, work permits or whatever permits or residency permits. It is monumentally painful when you've lost one of these things. First of all, I can't wait 8 weeks for the Department of Education to give you a replacement certificate. I need it now. So I highly recommend, if you don't already have it, go and scan in good copies of all of these documents. Open up a Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, whatever it is, the online cloud system that you prefer. Save all of these documents appropriately named. Gita Winter ID, Gita Winter Matric Certificate. So when you are asked for them, first of all, I don't have to guess what the document is, and they're readily available. And when you meet somebody or they requested of you, we don't have to wait. The longer we wait, the less likely we are to get you through the process, and the more disorganized you appear to be. So if you do nothing else but fix your CV, go and scan all these documents in and store them. They need not be certified. 95% of the time, nobody requires certified documents because we go to verify them anyway, and the verification gets submitted to clients or and uploaded. But there are times when a company will say, come on day one with a certified copy of your ID. So please make sure that you store these documents safely, aside from having them scanned in and readily available. And I'm going to say it one more time. Follow the application instructions. If it says attach your CV and your tertiary transcripts, please do that. Don't do it any other way. And my last point, because we are very cognizant of time now, your CV is part of your overall personal brand. It's just one little part of the whole picture that is you. So make sure that, first of all, it is representative of you of a brand, that the data is the same on LinkedIn. So if I go there, the dates must be the same, the duties must be the same, your qualifications, your primary skills must be the same. The About Me section on LinkedIn must be related to the profile statement or the value statement on your CV. Make sure that your CV is the most updated version on all of the platforms. So that means tracking whether I loaded it on Career Junction, PNet, FNB, wherever. Know where your CV is and know to update it. Because again, if I open a 2-year-old CV and you've done many things since, I am not going to assume you have. I'm going to take the CV on face value. And if you don't meet the criteria, well, oopsie, sorry for you. So make sure that the version that is out there is the one you want us to see, the story you want us to tell. Remember, your CV is a supporting document. Your entire brand identity counts. When I get a CV, I go and look at your online social status. I go and check you out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, wherever you are, because I want to see what your brand represents. LinkedIn specifically, and if your LinkedIn is maybe suspect, or you don't have a lot of content, or you don't think it brands you well, I encourage you to attend the LinkedIn training and personal branding one that comes in the next semester, because your entire brand counts. You can undo a great CV with a horrible personal brand elsewhere. So just bear that in mind. And again, I'm going to remind you, keep it relevant, do the research, check it often, make sure that it's on point. So whenever you need it, it's readily accessible and you stand out. Right, I'm not going to recap because we kind of did that now. Here's some useful links for you. If you want to check the ATS compliance of your CV, you can upload to jobscan.co the job spec and your CV, and it will rate it for you. It is a free site, so it only allows you a certain number of posts, but I mean of analysis, but you can go and use it. And then if you want to track where you've done applications or where your CV is, there is an online job tracker here. So it's a cloud-based version, but a good old-fashioned Excel spreadsheet also will do the trick. These are both very, very useful sites to manage your actual CV. Okay, right, that's it. If you want to follow me or my team, you're welcome to scan this. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. My team post some really valuable content around CVs and trends and interview skills, and we share jobs. I post as many graduate opportunities as I can come across. So if you want to follow me, here's the link. Otherwise, thank you. You guys have been an amazingly interactive group, which really your questions helped other people. So thank you for that. And I'm happy to take any other questions that there might be. Let me stop sharing while I look for a template to put in the chat.
Gita, can we chat about that before you put the template? We'll have an offline discussion about that.
Okay, sure. Then I'll happily send it to you.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Happiness, no problem. Any other questions?
Yeah, somebody said if you can't find us on social media, does it negatively impact the personal brand?
You know, not everybody is a lover of social media, so not really, no. If anything, you need to have a LinkedIn profile at a minimum. Nobody expects you to be on 20 gazillion platforms, but LinkedIn is a necessity. So the answer is no, but at least be there.
Someone's asking what's the difference between a CV and a resume?
A resume is a very American international thing. A resume is typically a very shortened version, normally about 2 pages of a CV, and a CV is a more detailed document typically. But in South Africa, they're used interchangeably, but yeah.
I am looking at the time and I can see we are. Can we just have one more question? In Mbele, you can unmute and ask your question.
Thanks, Ronel. Miss Winter,
Yes.
I was hoping to understand the social media part or the personal branding part. So what if I have, say for an example, I have Facebook, and on my Facebook, I do not really post much about my professional career. So instead, I post my hobbies or personal stuffs. Maybe if I like sport, if I like soccer, I post those kinds of, I post my hobbies instead.
Nothing
And
wrong.
then, okay. No, I got my answer. Thanks.
You know what? You remember you're a whole person. You're not just your job title. And Facebook is not a professional, it's not a professional site, right? It is exactly that. But I want to really, what I'm looking for is whether you are posting discriminatory posts, something that incites violence. We're looking for red flags. We're not looking to see if you love dogs or cats, but your brand speaks about itself. You're a whole person. If you go look at my Facebook post, my Facebook, you'll see that I'm pug obsessed. So you'll see more pictures of my pugs, and then I'll wish people happy birthday. And sometimes I'll take pictures of the bread that I baked because I think I'm quite clever at that. So, but it's part of my brand. It's what makes us human, right? You're allowed interest. You're allowed to be a whole person. Nobody says you need to turn every platform into a professional post. You don't. But I don't want to see that you also, be careful of what you post, right? And I'm not saying you can't be human, but if every second picture on your Facebook is your friends drunk in a ditch dragging you home, maybe you want to see about making that a little bit more private or considering how that might look in terms of your whole personal brand. But nobody says don't go to parties and don't drink. Just, is that the only thing we see? Because that might be a problem. But personal branding is a whole different topic. But the answer is no, be a person. Be authentic you. Please don't be somebody else. You need to be your authentic you all the time.
Thank you, Miss Winter.
You are so welcome. Okay, so in the essence of time, I think that was it, right, Ronel?
Yeah, I'm going to hand over to my director because he was facilitating the session and I just jumped in.
Okay.
For the last words.
Yes, thank you so much, Gita, for that very insightful presentation. I think everyone who joined the webinar basically has learned so much. I've learned a lot. I've been working for almost sad to say 20 years now. I'm giving away my age, but I learned so many valuable tips, hints, things that I could apply in my own, CV as well. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm hoping that our students, our alumni, have gained valuable insights that will help them succeed in terms of job hunting and really becoming active participants in our economy, and contribute to the success of our country. So thank you so much for your contribution, Gita.
You are so welcome. Next month in May, I am at the Pietermaritzburg campus in person. So it is right, Ronald? Pietermaritzburg campus?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, on the 7th of May, yeah.
Yes, I'm at the Pietermaritzburg conference in person. I've got an extra bit of free time, so if you want me to come to the Durban campus and just meet some people and engage a little bit, I'm more than happy to do that as well. But it'd be nice to see some of you in person if you happen to be there. Otherwise, have an awesome weekend, everybody. Thanks for being so participative. It really makes a big difference to helping other people. Your questions always help somebody else. So thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Gita. Have a wonderful weekend also. Take care.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Can I have a question here? I'm asking if can we be able to access the recording of this?
Okay, the recording is always shared. At least maybe you need to give us until Monday until the recording is ready from this session, and then we always share it with all the participants and all the attendees.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And Ronel, can I just double check with you the presentation itself? Will that be part of the
Yep.
what will be shared on
What
the
we
link?
share. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming in when you're not feeling so well, Ronel. Okay,
You're welcome.
Thanks
Thanks,
to all
boss
the
man.
participants, and then PMP on the 7th of May, guys. You'll get to interact with Gita directly. Bye.
Bye.
Please assist Ronella.